It's showtime. We're live.
It's Super
There you
Saturday
go.
night.
It's the. I don't have the tattoo, but we live.
One day we'll be good enough to CGI it on you.
Right. Bow!
I
can't even get the thing right. Like
I really just like holding it up because it is my arm with all my tattoos on. So I'm like, hey,
you're just showing off.
Look at me over here with my tattoos.
I got no tattoos to show. At least not yet. It's the year of the spider, so we gotta get my first one.
I got a Slimer. I like that. It kind of looks like a booger. I can't really get it on there. I don't know. It's a weird angle. There we go. There we go. Bada boom.
Shouts out Ghostbusters Afterlife.
I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait till the Ghostbusters movie drops sometime this year.
I know. It's exciting times.
We'll be lit.
I'm pretty stoked for the old Super Bowl tomorrow so that I can get all these juicy trailers that I know that Marvel's going to drop for their shows.
I know Carnage,
and Carnage. I keep forgetting about that one being a confirmed for sure trailer.
Yeah.
And that one I am stoked to see the footage for that movie. I'm ready.
That will be nice.
Especially after rewatching Venom. I'm ready.
I need to watch Venom.
You've never seen Venom?
No.
You haven't seen Venom?
No, I didn't.
What the fuck?
I bought into the critics when it came out, and I was like, I
mean, it ain't great by any means.
No, but I've heard that like the critics gave it shit reviews, but like people that watched it was this is pretty decent actually.
Yeah, it's just that, man. It's just decent. It's just like Tom Hardy, right? Yeah, Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock, Venom, like they got a good thing going, and I'm like,
I do need to watch it though before this Spider-Man. So I guess know.
Well, bro, I got it. We can watch this sometime. We'll get some Venom in.
But
that
tonight,
Eminem song at the end, Venom. Anyways,
I didn't know there was an Eminem song at the end.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's called Venom. I'm pretty sure. Venom. Fucking stupid. Anyways, tonight we're not speculating, we're not doing all that shit we usually do. Tonight we're gonna crossbreed a little bit. We're gonna do a little mental health Monday sort of stuff today on Super Saturday. A little bit. Maybe not entirely, but a little bit. We're gonna talk about
getting to the superhero shit that raised us.
Yeah, the things that have touched our lives, that have impacted us, and maybe have or still do play a part in our lives and stuff like that. The heroes we look up to and the comics that made us, sort of thing. So you wanna take first stab at this?
I mean, like for me in my life, it was never really a particular comic book when I was a kid, because right. I remember a lot of Super Saturdays ago you mentioned the fact that when you were a kid you got a year subscription to Spider-Man,
yeah.
See, I never got that when I was a kid and got that. So I mean I'd get comic books here and there and I'd read them, but as a kid I never really realized that they were like all interconnected, all a bigger part of the universe.
See, I didn't get that either as a kid, really.
No. I'd be like tripped out because you would obviously like with Marvel, you would read like Spider-Man, you'd read a regular Spider-Man story, and then I'd get like another Spider-Man comic book, and it would be like Spider-Man 2099. I'd be like, who the fuck is this?
Yeah, right.
Like, is this the same guy? Is this guy different? Who is this guy? I don't even know who this guy is. But like, it went back when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. Like, when I was growing up, because I was born at the end of the 80s, so 87. When I was a child, we had like X-Men, the animated series. I had Spider-Man animated series. I had Batman animated series. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I had Ninja Turtles was on TV. I just remember, like, for me, it was like.
See, I watched all that shit growing up too. I mean, I'm younger than you. I was 94.
But I know. I think it was still on.
Oh yeah, like, it was still.
Because those shows were baller.
Yeah, dude.
And that's what got me into all this shit. And like, I got all my brother's hand-me-downs. So I had all like the Super Friend toys. Yeah. I had all, all kinds of stuff. And like legitimately as a child, and this is like no bullshit. My mom could back me up. If my mom, if you ever watch this, if you still watch my shit, ma, comment please, and tell them that like legitimately, I had all these superhero costumes growing up,
I
and
believe it.
anytime we were going anywhere, it's like, hold up, I got to get dressed, and I'd run upstairs and I'd have to put a costume on, and like it got to the point where like, you know, they had to be like, listen,
Hmm.
I don't think you need to be wearing a costume going to the store no more, my dude.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
but
fine.
like I would like tell her and stuff, you know, and they'd be like, what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, I live in a town of probably about 2,500 people, and I dead ass look at my mom and be like, I'm gonna be the superhero of this town. I'm gonna go out at night. I'm gonna fight bad guys. I'm gonna save this
Hmm.
city. All this shit. Like I would do some
Real
crazy
thought.
shit.
Yeah.
Well, no, like I had all these, you know, little kid belts, and I tied them together one night. Never forget this shit because I legitimately was gonna try to go down, rappel down my fucking window down. I was on the second floor down to the ground and like go out at night. Like I'm a shower. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
out here. I'm gonna fight some guys, and I'm gonna be like, I told you, you know. But never happened. She caught me, and like when for comic books at least, it never really hit me until I was getting a little bit older, and then you could start like that was when like graphic novels and shit would like that would go out. Um, but it was like a weird time for me because like I grew up when I was growing up, like I don't know, man. I had an age and they was all like, yo, you shouldn't be into this, you
Hmm.
know, superhero shit no more. Like you're getting a little old for it, don't you think?
Hmm.
Because that was when most of that shit was geared towards kids. And so then, you know, like I fought and dragged. I'll never forget like getting to be like 11 and 12 away from that shit and being like, nah,
Hmm.
man, but fucking Batman is dope, man. And
Yeah.
like, you know, like the Power Rangers, they're pretty fucking dope. Um, and getting away from that and being like, I guess I like sports, football's
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, that sort of shit. And that though coincidentally became the time that X-Men came out in theaters.
Hmm.
And everybody was like, yo, this X-Men movie is that shit. And I was like, fuck you guys, man. Like, you know, like
Right. Yeah.
you fucking told me I need to grow up, and now you're coming at me telling me that this X-Men movie, this shit that
Is
I've
dope.
loved my whole life and I
Yeah.
didn't want to let go, that you made me let go, is dope.
Yeah.
Like fuck no. So
So I
I
think that
actually,
shit's stupid, man. When people are like, you're too old for certain things, I think that's ridiculous. Like, you
well,
know,
and
'cause some
that's
things, sure, you're probably too old to do, but like
no,
stuff
yeah.
like that, it's like you're allowed to watch cartoons, you're allowed to watch, read comic books and shit like that. It's like, don't ever get it twisted. Just because somebody tells you you can't do those things, it's bullshit. You're never too
Yeah.
old to, honestly, because it's like what you said. When I was a kid, I got those Spider-Man comics for that year and shit. Like, I read comics here and there otherwise, but I didn't understand the intricacy. Same thing as you. It's like, are all these Spider-Men the same people? Like, shit that like as a kid, I could not even begin to appreciate like as much as I can now as an adult. And it
Yeah.
like it worked out because like for me, I wore the costume. I had a Spider-Man costume. I wore that shit all the time. I wore it under my clothes. Like I loved it. And I wore that thing until I got too big for it, and it tore off my body. I loved that
You know what costume I did that to, and I still remember, and I'm kind of ashamed to admit,
thing. What is it?
Robin.
There's
I
nothing to be ashamed of.
I
I was
mean,
Robin one day, I think.
I wore the fuck out of this. Well, mine was like pajamas, like and it was like the
Word.
Robin, you know, because that's basically all his fucking costume was, uh, and the little green shorts, and I wore
Hmm.
the fuck out of it. I'll never forget. Like, man, I outgrew that shit, and I was like, nah, I'll wear that. I'm good.
For me, when I was a kid, I didn't tell my mom I was going to be a superhero, but I did at one point tell her I thought I had powers, and then her reaction to that was like she was going to take all this shit away from me, and I was like, all right, note to self: mom can't be confided. Keep secret identity
Keep it
with
away
mom.
from mom.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I guess there was always this sense of like feeling like I had this higher purpose, since I was a little kid, thinking I had
Yeah.
powers and shit, and so because of that, I think Spider-Man always resonated with me, like just because resonated with me. because of the whole, the great power comes great responsibility thing, and that hit when I was a kid. And the older I've gotten, the more I've come to appreciate Spider-Man more and more and more. And he's definitely a character that I relate to a lot, if not the most.
Yeah.
Spider-Man is one of those characters, and that's the whole thing. Is like it can be anybody behind the mask, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's true. It feels that way. It feels that way with Spider-Man. It really does feel like any of us could be Spider-Man if we chose to be, in a sense. Because like, especially the thing that really gets me, one of the storylines is when he switches bodies with Doc Ock, and Doc Ock becomes the superior Spider-Man. And when he does that, you know, Doc Ock finds out that Peter Parker is just insanely powerful, just insanely powerful. Like he could have killed most of these villains in one punch, but he doesn't. Like he's so restrained, and gives them all like a chance. He could be murdering motherfuckers left and right, but he doesn't do it.
He
You know,
chooses not to.
he chooses not to. He doesn't do it. And when Doc Ock finds that out, he just gets this mad respect for Peter Parker, and that's when he starts to be the superior Spider-Man and shit. Until all that gets fixed later in some other storyline. But that moment though, it's just like, I've always loved Peter Parker because he's just a real dude. Like there's a lot to, I don't know, there's a lot to see yourself in with Peter Parker.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, there's definitely a lot, man. And it wasn't, like I said, like I'm really thankful for all these movies and shit coming out, because like I said, that to me is what kind of like modernized.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is like, for me, I was in that perfect pocket of like, born in 94.
Yeah.
I read comics here and there a little bit, but it was like I had all those cartoons, right? Like that's what I started with. And then, 6 years later, we entered the 2000s, and we get X-Men, we get Spider-Man. Like I remember, when Spider-Man the movie like came out, like, oh my god, like that was insane, dude. The X-Men movie too. I remember that shit, like, and
see, for me as a kid,
I've grown with it. You know what I mean?
The movie that dropped that, like, I saw the poster for when I went to see some other, probably like Lion King or some shit, was Power Rangers. When they came out with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie,
that was my shit, dude.
I was like, oh, like I'll never forget though.
I just referenced that movie the other day. I said we all need to get rollerblades and reenact the fucking opening scene. Because Rio was talking about buying rollerblades. I said we'll all get rollerblades and we'll fucking reenact the opening scene of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
I love it. And like going to the Power Rangers, like the funniest thing for that to me is I so bad one year wanted to be a Power Ranger, right?
I was a Power Ranger for Halloween one year.
So bad. And the one costume that my mom got me was Billy.
That's fine.
And I was like, Mom, out of all the Power Rangers,
what's wrong with Billy?
He was the dweeb, It's like I wanted to be Jason. I wanted to be Tommy.
See, blue was my favorite color, so that's why I fucked with the Blue Ranger all the time.
I respect them now that I'm older. Like I wouldn't give a fuck about being the Blue Ranger. I think the Blue Ranger didn't get enough credit.
My mother tells this story, and the thing is, I just don't know where she gets this from. I don't actually know the true story because I hear different versions of it from adults. But I was like a child, like within, I was like within 4 to 5 years of age, and they claim something where I wanted to be the pink Ranger or the yellow Ranger or something, or that like my aunt was gonna buy me the Pink Ranger costume, and my parents were like, nah, or something like that. I don't know, but I'm always like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was a youngling. I didn't fucking. I don't think it meant.
I just want to point out though that as an adult back here, let's just point out I had to be Billy.
See,
I had to be Billy, but I got the Green Ranger helmet because I got to be Tommy one year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm just gonna set that. Here, so.
Especially this past Halloween, I was looking at some costumes like pretty hardcore, and I've always wanted to have at least one costume that's like just legit as fuck. You know what I mean? Like I shelled out for it like a few $100s. Like it just looks legit from head to toe.
Bro, I'm telling you though, if little kid me had a helmet like this, I would have
Oh yeah.
wore this motherfucker day in, day out, everywhere I went. I just want to throw that out
Oh
there.
yeah, I'm saying, like
Because
they
I
got
remember
those.
the one I had was just the face mask, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
And I
yeah.
was like, nah.
See, but they got those like those Marvel Legends helmets and stuff like that now that like are just like these legit. Like I saw the Ant-Man one. I know they have a Black Panther one too, but the Ant-Man one, it looks so legit. It looks just it's this exact replica. It's got lights, it's got sounds, it's this whole fucking thing. It's like a few $100. The costume I really want that I've been looking at for a few years now, and again, it's like a few $100 for it, but it looks legit as fuck from head to toe. Is the Daredevil costume from the Netflix series?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I keep 1 year for Halloween. I really, 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 really want to be Matthew Murdock, like during the day, just be a blind guy, like in a suit all day, and then at night when I go to a party or something, change into the Daredevil costume. If for anything, my own satisfaction.
That'd be
I
dope,
don't care
man.
if anybody else sees it throughout the night. I'd love it.
No, like I fucks with it, man. Growing up as a kid, I was mostly until I got out of like being I wanted to be something scary, you know, and shit like that for
Right,
Halloween. Like I was something. I was the Riddler one year, and I'll never forget that because that was when Batman and Batman Forever came out,
right, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and the Riddler was big, so I had the Riddler costume, and my grandfather, uh, one of the best men I know, he carved this Riddler cane out of
Kane,
wood.
that's awesome.
Yeah. He can do some stuff with wood that I could never dream of. And he carved the cane out of wood that the Riddler had for me and spray painted it gold. And I'll never forget him giving me that on Halloween and just being dude, it blew my mind as a kid.
That's awesome.
That's one of my favorite Halloween memories, like thinking back as a kid. Like I still see pictures of it and that smirk on my face, like it's legit, it's real. Like I
That's
was like
dope.
in it. Yeah, man. Oh
The
man,
Riddler's one
like
of my favorites, man, as
oh
far as
yeah.
like characters go.
Oh
I
yeah, and
always
like
something
that
always about the Riddler. I think it was Jim Carrey because Jim Carrey's what got me into
uh,
movies and shit. And I feel like because Jim Carrey played the Riddler, that's why
oh
I
Jim
was super
Carrey.
into the Riddler. Like Jim Carrey was responsible for spawning a lot of like loves I had later in life. Just like the Beatles, I got into the Beatles because of Jim Carrey because I was such a big Jim Carrey fan. I saw this like music video where he sang a cover of "I Am the Walrus," and then I
Mm.
got into the original song, and then I got into the Beatles, and I was just like, "Damn, thanks again, Jim Carrey!" Like everything.
No, well see, and I think that like one of my favorite things about all this was like I started getting into the comic section and reading stuff and like was when I had my son. Like when he came around and I could start sharing these things with him, was when I started getting into him hard. And like one of his favorites at a young age, I'll never forget was I think the Batman Death in the Family. I forget which one. Whatever one is the one where Joker cuts his face off and then wears it as a mask.
Yikes!
Yeah. And like
Yeah,
offs the entire Bat family.
his
That
favorite.
one. So I had that and my son was visiting me and I was like, yo, I got these comic books and stuff, and he was looking through them all and he came across that one. I had the graphic novel, so it was like all of the comics,
Yeah,
and he started reading through it and he was just like, it just blew his mind though. Like, you know what
right.
I'm saying? Like he like just dove into this and he was like, yo, dad, can when he was like leaving, he's like, can I have that? And I was like, hell yeah, you can have that. Like, that ain't no thing, my dude. And I'll never forget his mom hit me up and she was just so pissed that I gave him that. And she's like, he has not stopped
Right.
staring at it since he got home. Like the whole, like he is just in it. And I'm like, like, but that's good. Like he is reading. He is like found something that
Right. Yeah.
he's into.
You
And
know,
she's like, but I saw what he's looking at, and I just, and it's like, come on, at the end of the story, the good
people have
guy's
been
gonna
saying
win.
shit like that for years too. I remember when I was a kid and I'd be reading like some comics and stuff, and like there might be some nudity in it or some blood or some violence, and like an authority figure would see it and be like, "Oh, I don't think you need to be reading this," and it's like I'm honestly not even concerned about it until you bring it up. It's not until you point it out to me that I'm like, this shit isn't okay. You know what I mean? Like, and I should. It's like I was just reading it for the story. I'm reading. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
reading. I'm like I'm. Uh, I was always fascinated with that stuff, and again, it's one of those things that there are definitely times like growing up that I felt like, oh, I need to stop reading comic books because I'm getting older, and it's just like, nah, dude, that shit ain't true. That shit ain't true at all. Like comic books are as much for adults as they are kids.
That's what I said.
Like,
That's
they're,
as
they're they're
the
they're totally different purposes. Like as a kid,
yeah.
I enjoyed it for a very different reason, but at the same time, very similar reason. You know what I mean? I still look up to these superheroes and stuff. Like I still like a lot of my moral code, a lot of my fiber of my being is because of these superheroes. That I was raised on, and I still, I still enjoy their stories.
Well, that's what I said. Like, yeah, the comics that really hit me has been when I've been an adult reading them. I mean, like there's something, and it's been things that's like I touch back on that I remember from when I was a kid, and I was like, oh damn, okay, I remember that as a kid. So like the nostalgia plays in, but then it's like the actual meaning that like the creators behind this was getting that hits me, and
Mhm.
I'm like, damn, dude, like this is deeper than I ever
Yeah.
realized. And I love those aspects. Like, because like I said, the shit that really influenced me as a kid was like more of the animated series, but like when you get in like Batman, that Batman animated series actually spawned so much that became now part of the Batman story.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like if a lot of motherfuckers realize, like before the animated series, Mr. Freeze wasn't shit. He was just some goofy ass motherfucker that freeze shit. That animated series was what gave him the
What changed
backstory
things?
of wanting to save his wife, and stuff like that, and made him one of the Batman's. Like, to me, it's like a character that it's like, damn, I wish I didn't have to fight you. Like, I
Yeah.
wish we could be helping each other. Like, Mr. Freeze, like you're kind of cool, but like, obviously I got to kick your ass.
Right.
Like, but you're a bad guy. But
Yeah.
like, and with the popularity of all the movies and stuff, obviously, like years ago, I was like, okay, well, they're going towards the Infinity stuff, so I need to read that.
Mhm.
Which was like shit. Like I remember here and there, like picking up as a kid, and and when that shit dropped. Um, but I never sat down and read all of the stories as one, all together. I
Yeah.
never did that. As a kid, I had here and there with X-Men,
Right.
like especially like the Savage Land, Days of Future Past type shit. As an adult, I actually got to fucking sit down and be like, yo, I want to read this
Right. I
shit,
want to read this. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I hear
And
you.
like really get into it and be like,
As
oh
a kid, you
damn,
don't give a
like
shit, like, if it's the middle of a story or not. You don't really know. You're just kinda like, what's going down? What's Spidey up to? What's so and so up to? Like,
yeah, you just hope for some like cool shit to go down. You just
yeah.
hope it's not like an issue that you bought that has like nothing really in
Mhm.
it. Like that's what I always hoped as a kid.
Right.
I hope there's like something.
Right. Hope there's some action-packed sequences in this one. Otherwise, I don't want it as a kid.
Yeah, but like
Now
the
I'm just
one the ones I like now are the ones that really hit you. Like obviously,
mhm,
like I love the Hellblazer series
mhm.
and shit. I haven't read the newest one that just came out. I was waiting for, I think by now, hopefully, the last one had dropped, so then I can catch them all, like I said in the series,
Right.
and read the newer ones. But his original run, Hellblazer, back in the '80s, is one that I fucking
Yeah.
respect the hell out of these days. I just love everything within them, like the teachings, and it's like you just find yourself relating to Constantine, me at least as an adult, and being like, damn, that sucks. But then at the same time, within those comics, I really like how they fucking tie in, like how the demons and shit work. How the demons are like real life everyday people, but
Right.
this guy might be like a fucking Donald Trump type guy, and we might see him as a regular human, but deep down he's like some nasty one of the what gluttony fucking demon,
Hmm.
that's just eating a bunch of bullshit and farting and pissing everywhere.
Right.
And it's like, he's just wanting to fucking harvest the souls of the people that he beats down or pisses off or some shit. Like that's how they played all those comics back in the day. A lot of it was
They're
with
just
the
real people that were possessed or whatever.
well, like the politics that were going on in Britain at the time, like Margaret Thatcher and shit like that,
Mm.
and all the shit she was trying to change and shit for the kids and censor and all this shit. A lot of that was played within the first Hellblazers. But I enjoyed it because I knew the history already as an adult, so
Yeah.
it was dope. Like I think shit like that's dope, and learning lessons, learning little shit about yourself
Yeah.
through these heroes.
Well, I've said plenty of times, I feel like, on the show that, Batman is definitely one that, while, Batman, he's a little overrated, sure, he's a little bit everywhere. But at the end of the day, I still try to emulate Batman sometimes in the sense of like, I've had a lot of time in my life that has been dictated by fear. And so I always kind of look to Batman as like inspiration to draw from and be like, well, this guy tackled his fear, his fear of bats, and look what he accomplished. You know what I mean? And it's just like I think back to these characters. I think that's why I love Daredevil so much. Daredevil is this person with a disability, but he's stronger for it. He's, uh,
Yeah.
I just, I love the morals of some of these characters, and they're not perfect either, as well. They're not perfect
Yeah.
beings, which is very nice. That's what, that's the whole idea. That was the whole thing, that Stan Lee was aiming for back in the day, and it worked. Very much
No,
so.
and it does, man. And that's like some Superman panels that I love, like, and I think I mentioned on this shit before. Because people have a problem with Superman because he did back in the day when he first came out, they did make him perfect, you know what I mean? And
Right.
try to be like this perfect, person.
Right.
But I like just seeing like the weight on his shoulders and like the modernization we have nowadays of Superman and how much he must actually be fucking actually dealing with to be this fucking supreme being here
Hmm.
that is the Don Dada,
Yeah.
um
And like
uh,
I was gonna say on like a bigger scale, not just like characters that I want to emulate or something, but sometimes I see things in comic books that inspire me as far as like changes in the world go, where it's like, wouldn't it be nice if this concept from the comics made it over? And one for me was like Wakanda. Whenever I see Wakanda, whether it be in the movie or the comics or whatever, like that to me represents everything we could be, as humans, as people, as human beings to one another. And it's just things like that. I always love
well,
the
yeah.
inspiration. I always go back to that scene in Amazing Spider-Man 2 when the kid walks out and puts the Spider-Man mask on and tries to fight Rhino. Like some
Well, I
people
was gonna say
might make the argument of like the kids are being inspired
well,
to run
you
out.
could even say all the comics like after 9/11 that came out with all the New York based superheroes and shit, like them helping firefighters being like, nah, you're the all that kind of
Yeah,
shit.
yeah,
Like they are an inspiration, man, and they do help people with grief and getting through things and dealing and processing and helping, and it is something you can share with children,
hmm
and help them. They can see it and be like, oh dang, and that's pretty dope.
hmm
And you never know, like the shit we're doing nowadays, could be super if you want to say that.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the shit I'm doing nowadays, I could argue with you that I'm still trying to live my dream of being a superhero.
I was gonna make that argument for you at the beginning of the show when you first said that. You can still argue that you're still becoming the town superhero.
You
You know,
never know.
and
You
I can
never
still
know.
argue that I do have powers, man, and I've been trying to use them responsibly
Hey,
to help, people.
maybe you just haven't had your moment that has activated your X gene yet.
For me, I think until my like true mutant genes kick in, I think the superpowers that I have is patience, understanding, the ability to learn, from not only my mistakes but other people's mistakes as well. Like these are all things that some people, they take for granted, and I recognize that I'm a lucky dude for being that way, for being able
I,
to.
I I shared some shit like that on our Facebook
Yeah,
a couple Super Saturdays ago. Honestly, yeah, that was like superpowers you can have in real life, and I was
mhm,
like a little mental
yeah.
health Monday mixed in with Super Saturday here.
And
Uh,
it's true that these all feel like my superpowers. I use them to help other people, to make my life a little better too. Uh,
it's like a low key Professor X.
Yeah, my see, I got my whole theory that it's what we think is supernatural, things that we think are just they're superpowers, there's shit like that. I think human beings are very capable of a lot of this stuff, but we just don't allow for it. You know,
Yeah,
uh, we Philip and I were talking about it earlier. It's like one of those conversations where like even having to say this just backs up what we were talking about, is the fact that like it's one of those things that people always frame it as a joke. You know what I mean? Like that it's like, oh, Mr. like society, so like you're talking about society being all fucked up and it's this and it's that and the man and all that shit. And they always frame it as a joke. But like I started reading this book, that How Not to Die. I don't know if you've ever seen that before or not. But at the end of like every paragraph, this guy is reiterating like how not to die is essentially like quit eating meat and processed foods and all this shit. And it's like the way he was backing it all up, it kind of just put it into perspective for me that like we really do just, and I've always thought this, that we live in a society where people don't question things. There people will just live the way they're used to or they're told to. They won't allow themselves to read comic books or uh, do all this shit. But it's not true. You can do whatever way. I mean, superhero. Look at the superheroes, man. They are put into boxes, and they break out of those boxes. You know what I'm saying.
I know
Feel
what you're
free to
saying.
jump in.
I know
Take
what you're
over
saying,
here.
man. I just like, damn, we're at the 32-minute mark. I didn't really get to talk about a lot of the comic books that I wanted to,
I
but like,
know.
it's
I
like,
was.
damn,
I was
wow.
ready I was ready to go off tonight.
I mean, like, I want to have an honorable mention of the Walking Dead comic series. I actually did really enjoy the comic books.
Yeah. Cool.
Um, they actually were what I was hoping the show would become. And that was like basically when I read those, because I read them in like the series novel books.
Hmm.
And it was like, dude, you didn't know turning that page, you're like, who the fuck's gonna be dying on this next page? You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's how savage that story is. You'd be getting into a character like, wow, I really like, this character's opening up, doing her
Maybe that's
thing.
what I'll do. Maybe I'll read the comics instead of trying to watch the show again.
Oh man, the comics blow it out of the water. You're like, yeah, because like,
I've never even cracked one of those comics open, so I would love to check those out. Actually,
oh, I actually don't have them. I
damn.
wish I had my series book. Now, Corey Cunningham, you son of a bitch. I know who has it. You're in South Bend, Indiana. He moved all the way to Indiana. I'm gonna drive up there sometime,
Yeah.
brother, and I'm gonna get my book back. But yeah, no, I had the series one. I don't know any comics I have right now as an adult, like physical comics. I have.
Oh, I have some.
I know you do.
I got some in the like, but I buy them in the collection sets. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
The collected stuff. I know I have Civil War and Infinity War. I've got Watchmen, which I'm really wanting to reread Watchmen, especially now that I got my tapestry up of Doctor Manhattan. Like he's
Yeah.
always looking down on me, and I'm like, I want to reread it just to get context for the panel that it now hangs above my ceiling. What else do I got over there? Oh, I got Jessica Jones, her second run of comics. The fuck, what was it called? She worked at the Daily Bugle, but the Daily Bugle had the Pulse. The Daily Bugle had like a little subset called the Pulse, and Jessica Jones worked there. And this was all of the stuff that led into the New Avengers when her and Luke
Nice.
Cage get married and have a baby and all this shit.
Yeah.
Uh, I loved it. It's definitely one of my favorites. I love Jessica Jones. She's one of my favorite characters.
Civil War was one of my favorites. Batman Nightfall. That's one of my favorite. That's the one where Bane breaks Batman's back.
Yeah.
And then Batman has to choose a new predecessor.
I don't even
Chooses
think I could pick a favorite DC comic, if I'm being honest with you.
That's one of my favorite ones, though. That one's cool because Azrael takes over as Batman and then goes, fuck. I think he tries to murder, he does murder Bane and then just goes fucking nuts. And then Batman's got to come back. He's trying to solve the disappearance of Tim Drake's parents, Robin's parents at the time. And then he's got to come back and then be like, fuck, I got to fight to be Batman again.
It's not true. I can pick my favorite DC comic because I was really racking my brain. I'm like, have I really never read like that many DC comics? Fucking The Dark Knight Returns, the Frank Miller ones.
Yeah,
those were lit.
Those were good.
And Batman Year One, really enjoyed those quite a bit.
Batman Year One's good. They got, like I said, they got some really good ones. I was reading the Injustice comic series that came from the video game for a while. I really enjoyed those because in the second series, you get a team up of John Constantine, Batman, and Detective Chimp. And I was like, yo, this is lit. Okay, this is that is a lit team. Like, I would love a movie of those three doing some detective shit, some paranormal detective shit. But Flashpoint, obviously, that's a very good comic.
So I've heard.
Yeah, and you've seen dozens of adaptations. We're gonna get another adaptation soon of it, but definitely really fucking good. What else in DC, man? Night of the Court of the Owls. There you go. Batman Court of the Owls, probably one of my favorite Batman ones, by far. Long Halloween Batman. Again, very, very. That one's hands down. That's got to be my favorite Batman right there. The Long Halloween.
Yeah. You know, usually most of mine lay in Marvel, so I'd say pretty much anything Spider-Man I can dig. Moon Girl was one of my favorite comics. Like, that whole run of comics was great. The Jessica Jones was great. I liked Cloak and Dagger. I don't know if that would count as one of my favorites. Civil War would be. Civil War was definitely one of my favorite storylines. But outside of the two heavy hitters, I do have other comics that I really like a lot. The Mask, like the Jim Carrey Mask, like, but the original comic, that is my shit, dude. Like, that's on my dream list of, like, if I could do a remake or like a readaptation of the comic book, I would do it like the comic book, like rated R, just insane, dude. It's insane.
I've never read the comic book.
It's nuts, dude. It's not the Jim Carrey movie. Like, there are elements that are exactly the same, but then it's just like throw in like the comics is like the Jim Carrey movie meets Deadpool, you know, like, sort of thing. It's pretty fucked up.
I can't be mad at that, man. That sounds kind of lit.
Straight up, like, he goes into this classroom where the teacher had like made fun of him as a kid or some shit, and like kills this bitch in front of the whole class of kids. Like, he's nuts, dude. Like, he's a total like anti-hero, and like the mask gets passed around. And I've only read the first like set too, and I know there's a sequel. I think it might be The Mask Returns, but The Mask is lit. I definitely love that. But another one that was one of my favorites is Lock and Key. They made a Netflix show, and I haven't watched the Netflix show yet. But it was written by Stephen King's son, Joe Hill. And I don't know, man. I just really dug it. It was more of like a fantasy kind of comic book, like a fantasy horror sort of thing.
Right.
Set modern day, and it was interesting. I thought it was really cool. They're like these keys that like make like supernatural things happen and shit. Like,
sounds pretty interesting.
It's a cool one.
And I gotta give my love for the X-Men though. As a kid, as an adult, Return to the Savage Lands, anything with the Savage Lands, I just fucking loved as a kid. I don't know why. Mr. Sinister, all that shit down there.
Hell yeah.
Give it to me, man. I don't know what the guy's name was, but the little fucking pterodactyl looking mutant, I just fucked with him all the time. I don't know why.
And also shouts out to Sin City.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Sin City. Yeah, that one. Can't not mention that one. because I definitely read that one back in the day.
I mean, like I said, when you get to comics, there's so many dope ones. I know as a kid, I'd come across Spawn comic books all the time that I get.
Yeah, which Spawn recently, I got real into Spawn like last year. I'd say at the beginning of the quarantine, because I started watching the series, the animated series on HBO, and shit's lit. Shit's lit. I can't wait for the new one.
I know as a kid, I probably read some Scooby-Doo comics.
Oh, for sure. I definitely read. I guess the big one for me. I don't know if it's a comic. I was a big Captain Underpants fan growing up.
Yeah,
That was my jam growing up.
that was Goosebumps too. I
Dude,
read
Goosebumps is also my shit, but they're not comic books either.
Yeah, I know. As far as books go,
there was the one Goosebumps about the comic book though, the Attack of the Mutant. Remember that shit?
Yeah.
That one was some creepy shit. I love Goosebumps. We're gonna have to do some Goosebumps talk this October because I needed an excuse to sit down and actually like watch through Goosebumps. That sounds great.
Like the original show.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I've actually watched a couple of them. Every Halloween I watch Haunted Mask.
Well, bro, Haunted Mask. That's another one. My parents they love to tell this story about how when I was a kid and the Haunted Mask came out, I was like little as fuck, bro, like at least like 2 or 3. But they said I would do this thing where I'd walk around like doing this thing, and they'd ask me what I was doing, and I told them I'm trying to take my mask off. And it's just like that, and it scared the shit out of me, dude. Like I liked it.
Man,
I enjoyed it. I'm like, turn it
I
off.
never forget watching that as a kid and just be like, damn, like I'd be so freaked out if I was like, I can't take it off. I can't get my mask
like
off.
that, man.
Yeah, dude, they had a couple.
That mask I have in my closet from like a few Halloweens ago. That's how that fucking mask makes me feel. I'm like, I was scarred by that show as a kid, and now to wear this mask, I'm like, I'm gonna leave here one day, and it's gonna be like stuck to my fucking. Can't have that, dude.
Man. I love it, man. Stay out of the basement. Stay out of the basement. Get out of there. All right, though. I mean, you know, we went a little over, but comic books or that shit. So,
and we could have kept going, but we won't.
I could keep talking. I could keep talking about some heroes and what they mean to me, but I love them all.
They mean a lot. We have other Saturdays. We can spread some of this love.
Yeah, we definitely can. We definitely can.
Just characters.
We've probably only just been talking to each other the whole time, but oh well.
Hey, you know what? It's honestly, it's kind of like that every night these days. But that's okay. We're still here doing the show,
and you'll view it.
Yeah, people see it later. You know,
have a couple. They're
just missing out on a nice little live chat. Is all.
Yeah, we could be interacting. We could be interacting with you.
We could have talked, but no. Keep playing. So
I'd tell you the business here at the end, fam, but you already know the deal. Hit the like, subscribe, do it.
Like it, subscribe it.
You already know who we are.
ChaseandShep.com. It's been, zooming by down at the bottom of the screen for almost 45 minutes. So you know where to find the boys. Super Saturday. We'll see you for Mental Health Monday.
We'll be there. Smooches.
Peace.